The Trump economy?
It partially is right now, and I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy, and the bad parts are the Biden economy, because he's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job on everything. Perhaps I shouldn't say this, but I have a little warm spot in my heart for Tic Tac.
Quote, I'm going to quote what you said. Maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30.
Yeah.
And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
No, I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dolls are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have 30 dolls. I think they can have 3 dolls or 4 dolls. Because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars with China.
When you say they could have $3 instead of $30, are you saying Americans could see empty store shelves?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they don't need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5.
Even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I can't name one Democrat. I mean, I look at the Democrats, they're in total disarray. They have a new person named Crockett. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. And they said, she's the future of the party. I said, you have to be kidding. I don't know what they're going to do. And I really believe in a two-party system. Because it's good to be challenged. It's really good to have a two-party. You know, it's good. Being challenged is okay. It keeps you sharp. I don't know what they're going to do. They have nobody. Bernie's 87 years old or something. And, you know, Biden is the worst thing that ever happened to old people because he was grossly incompetent.
Seriously considering a third term, Mr. President, even though it's prohibited by the Constitution? Or is this about staying politically viable?
I will say this. So many people want me to do it. I have never had requests so strong as that. But it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody, ideally a great Republican to carry it forward. But I think we're going to have 4 years, and I think 4 years is plenty of time to do something really spectacular.
The Trump economy?
It partially is right now, and I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy, and the bad parts are the Biden economy, because he's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job on everything.
People should have the right to criticize you without fear of reprisal.
Absolutely, yeah, I do. That I do.
And how do you square that?
And I think that happens.
How do you square that with the fact that you have passed these executive orders asking the Attorney General to look into some of the people who've criticized you, who've been harshest against you?
I have been investigated more than any person in the history of the United States of America. I've been investigated more than the late, great, as I say at my rallies, Alphonse Capone. Alphonse Capone was a nasty man. He was the highest level gangster. And I have been investigated more than Al Capone, more than anybody. These people are evil people. And I won.
You say to those who believe you are taking the country down an authoritarian path.
Well, there you go again. Why don't you ask it a different way? Many people wanted to come into our country. Many people love Trump. I won the election. They didn't win the election. I got a lot more votes than they did. I won the popular vote. I won all 7 swing states by a lot. A lot of people were surprised. I said, I think he could win 4, maybe 5. No, I won all 7, and I won by a lot. And I won, actually. I think there was a lot of hanky-panky going on, but it was too big to rig. That's the good news. It's too big to rig.
The actual good news that we're seeing on the economy, the president keeps making up numbers about gas prices, as he did last night when he was speaking to graduates at the University of Alabama.
Gasoline prices just hit $1.88 a gallon in 3 states. Can you believe it? It was at $3.50. It was at $4. We're drilling. Oh, we're drilling. You know, drill, baby, drill, right? We drill, baby, drill. We do that. We got it down. We have it going good.
That number went up 10 cents this morning when the president posted Gasoline just broke $1.98 a gallon, the lowest in years. Neither of those are accurate, and prices aren't close to $1.88 or $1.98 in any state, as drivers across the country are well aware of. Actually, we checked, and according to AAA, the national average right now is about $3.18 a gallon. Mississippi has the lowest, but even there, drivers are still paying about $2.66. My lead source tonight is the New York Times' Maggie Haberman. And Maggie, on that comment the president made in this interview that he did with Meet the Press, do you think he is as unconcerned about the prospect of a recession as a result of his trade policies as he seemed to be there?
No, I don't. But I think that is the front that he is putting on. They did get good news today in terms of the jobs front. Yes, the market numbers rebounded somewhat. You are correct that he keeps saying things about prices that just don't comport with reality. It was actually interesting. I was looking at a similar Truth Social post that he did, his social media website, where he said, you know, prices are falling and everything is very, very low now. And a bunch of replies, which are normally very praising of him, over the top praising, were saying essentially, not where I live, not where I live, not where I live. So there is actually a limit to how much he can keep saying that and have his own voters believe him. But he right now seems to believe himself.
That's actually really interesting because I have a Truth Social account to obviously monitor what the president says, but people who get Truth Social account typically are supporters of the president's.
I had never seen pushback on something he was saying before. And there were still some praise in response, but there were a number of comments of people saying that's not happening.
In the spirit of Doge, I present to you 4 amendments that have over 900 million, some people would say that's $1 billion, okay, of savings to the American people. I decided to Doge your budget. Even though the Doge caucus in Congress is dead, it met twice, I know, I was there. It did nothing, it was never included. Instead, what we got was a executive branch Doge program that fell 80% lower than their goal. They left the E out in Doge. They didn't do anything that was efficient. They've not helped government become more efficient, just the dog part. And so what I did, Mr. Chairman, is I used the exact same metric that Elon Musk used. I just made it up. So let's just go with page 70, okay? On page 70, you want to put $700 million into the IT budget. I propose we make that $600 million. Save the American people $100 million. $600 million for computers, Mr. Chairman, sounds like a lot of money. My next amendment in there is on page 75. You guys want to spend $1.3 billion to hire lawyers. You guys starting a law firm? I mean, didn't Trump get like billions of dollars of like pro bono work out of all of the law firms? So what I propose, Mr. Chairman, is instead of $1.3 billion, we just spend $1 billion. How about $1 billion on lawyers? That sounds like a lot of money, $1 billion on lawyers. New cars. Homeland needs new cars. So you guys want to spend $250 million on new cars. I propose $125 million. Feel like they could probably get away with $125 million in new cars, not $250. I know cars are more expensive because of the tariffs, but at the end of the day, I feel like $125 million is a lot of money. And then this one's my favorite. I don't know if you know this, but you guys have $858 million, again, almost $1 billion, okay, of money to give out bonuses to people. And so listen, bonuses are great when people do good work, but $858 million sounds like a lot of money. That's like a $40,000 bonus to every employee in all of ICE. So how about $500 million? How about $500 million for bonuses? Okay, we can do this together. We can show the American people there's like a little bit of waste here, So I can help you capture, Mr. Chairman, $903 million. We can save $1 billion together, show the American people
The purpose of our budget.
With all due respect, you do understand our federal budget is $2.5 trillion in
Reclaiming
debt.
my time, though.
I know,
I'm just saying,
but our values, we
reclaiming my
can't
time,
have
Mr.
values
Chairman,
where we
you don't get to just interject, Mr. Chairman.
You know what? I think you've already spoken, so
I
you're
have
out
not
of order.
spoken on this. I borrowed on somebody else's time.
All right, go ahead.
I borrowed somebody else's time. And I will speak.
Well,
And
speak.
this
You all
budget
have
does
put you
reflect
all have put
values.
our country
It
in
does-
debt.
does
In debt.
reflect
Kids are
values.
graduating from
You're
college.
about to put our
with
country in
debt.
$4 trillion more debt.
I don't think you all could find $1 billion
on.
in savings.
Come
You don't
on.
care about the
Come on.
Congressional Budget Office scores because you
Mr.
don't care
Chairman,
what anything
reclaiming my
costs. You
time.
just want to spend
Reclaiming my time.
hard-working American taxpayers' money.
I asked to
Give
restore
him
the
5
time.
minutes. You can talk all you want. I want everyone in America to see how much
Mr.
opposition
Chairman,
you all have to.
You're
to
out of
try to
order.
get the-
You're out
get
of order.
fiscal
Your own
here. Go
chairman,
ahead,
and you're
go
out
ahead,
of
go
order.
ahead, Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now, without
I'd like to point something out that our Democrat colleagues know this because they did reconciliation before when they were in charge. And, you know, it may be hard for some of the freshman Dems to understand, but this is not a policy debate. That's not what reconciliation is. This is a budget process. And so for the American people watching at home, our Democrat colleagues are sitting here trying to score points and spread more lies and divisiveness about Republicans in order to spread more garbage across the country. But this is about budget, Mr. Chairman, and this committee is trying to do serious work, and we need to stay focused on budget, and that's for the American people. And it is very serious that's what we remain focused on here in our work on oversight. And the Democrats know that provisions must be carefully crafted because they did it before. And it has to be scored by CBO to be included in this budget bill. And that's what we're trying to do, Mr. Chairman. And I just wanted to point that out for the people watching at home so they are not swayed by this entertainment today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
The president deported a 4-year-old American citizen with cancer, stage 4 cancer, took him away from his American citizen father and his American cancer treatment. People just wanted cheap eggs. And now you're deporting kids with cancer. We are so far off course from where the American people wanted this administration to go.
You know, our chairman, for whom I have great respect and admiration, I have seen him over the years. How does one go from being a libertarian railing about the deep state and the FBI and the Department of Justice and the jackboot thugs coming down on the rights of the people to becoming a supine, submissive authoritarian who votes against providing basic due process rights for the people against the government? I don't get it. I hope that we would never end up in such a period of partisan saturation that we completely suspend our critical thinking skills when it comes to our own party taking over the government and having someone seeking to become something like a monarch or an autocrat or a king.
Average working class American, and that's what's moving the needle.
Hold on. I'm not letting that slip. You just finished saying Peter Navarro, sir, was an idiot.
Yeah.
Why is an idiot your top trade? Your top trade advisor?
Not mine.
He said.
I'm talking about Trump. I'm talking about Trump.
Yeah.
Why is it a quote unquote idiot in that position? And how should we feel about that?
So, okay. The problem is the messaging, right? I'm not really a tariff guy, right? Republicans traditionally are not on the tariff thing. I think we're willing to see where this plays out over the next year, and it's going to take a year. The benefit that Trump has given us is he said, look, I'm going to give myself 90 days. He's putting himself in a box. I got 90 days to renegotiate 70 to 100 deals with 100 different countries. That wasn't Navarro's idea. That was Trump's idea. Because he said we have to show America that there's an expectation that this gets resolved, right? That this doesn't go on forever and ever. And if it goes on for a long time, it's going to simply be with China long term. So I think he had bad advice early on. I think there's a lot of loyalty there that he had. God bless him. But bad advice early on, bad messaging long term. So I'm willing to give the 90 days. I think as you brought up, we don't know where a lot of this is going to end up. I think China is still, to Rana's example, China is still going to be the biggest problem because those are the products that we need to see on the shelves. America has about 90 days of pre-buy in it, right?
Why do we need to see Chinese products on the shelves? I don't buy China.
No.
I don't buy it. I mean,
you bring up DEI, you talk about it on merit. And one of the things that you and I debated back, we went back and forth about it. I said, first of all, my definition of DEI is didn't earn it. Let me put that out there. Secondly, what I'm pointing to is the neglect in recalling while some of these policies were implemented to begin with. So when we talk about the eradication of quote unquote DEI initiatives, what it leads me back to is, okay, there was a white male power structure that existed throughout history before these policies were implemented that didn't operate based on equity, didn't operate based on merit, rather. They operated based on, to use your word, Bill, preferences. What in God's name are we seeing in this day and age that tells us that America or this administration or Congress, whomever, that their preferences is going to be diversity as opposed to a return to the quote unquote good old days?
The diversity is merit.
No, but you can expose it. That's the journalist point of view.
No.
The journalism, if you have a company that's not going to hire any minorities, then every reporter in that town should be standing outside that company going, hey, what the deuce are these people doing? But what everybody has to understand is you don't correct historical wrongs by creating modern wrongs. You don't do that.
All right, hold on. Jimmy, I want to get you in, and then we're going to pivot to a different topic because I got Secretary Kennedy, and I don't want to lose his window. Go ahead.
I just want to make a point about DEI. I taught college for 16 years. I taught 9 years at Tulane. You know how you would get in my class if you were black or you were conservative? You know why? Because we didn't have many, and I wanted a diverse classroom. So if you came in and you saw me and said, Professor Colville, I want to get in your class, I'm a conservative Republican, said, come right in. We would actually go out. We would go out and look for black students to be in the class. You know why? Because I wanted a diverse class. I wanted diverse opinions. And if you just sit at a major, expensive private university, you know what you're going to lack? You're going to lack sufficient number of black students because there's a huge economic barrier to go to these $75,000 a year colleges. And it's secret. These colleges are overrun by liberals. I wanted other people. I practiced diversity. I practiced whatever you want to call it. I actually solicited black and conservative students because I thought it made for a better education for everybody else. It made for a better classroom.
Let's bring in Secretary.
Last question on this.
But it never should have happened.
If there's no peace deal, will the U.S. cut off military aid to Ukraine?
I don't want to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you whether or not I would or not. I want to leave that as a big fat secret because I don't want to ruin a negotiation. But
I'd be worried
I will tell you, I was not happy when I saw Putin shooting missiles into a few towns and cities. And that was not something that I like seeing. And I thought it was inappropriate. But I think the whole war is inappropriate. Okay. Again, it's a war that shouldn't have happened. This is a war that if the election weren't rigged, and it was totally rigged, the 2020 election, if it weren't rigged, you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have had the embarrassment of Afghanistan. You wouldn't have October 7th with Israel.
But the court has ordered you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
But the buck stops in this office.
No. I follow the law. You want me to follow the law? If I were the president that just wanted to do anything, I'd probably keep him right where he is.
Supreme Court says what the law is.
Listen, I was elected to take care of a problem. It was a unforced error that was made by a very incompetent man, a man that turned out to be incompetent, that you always said was wonderful, a great genius, right? And now you find out, all of the media now, they're saying what a mistake they made. A man who was grossly incompetent allowed us to have open borders where millions of people flowed in. I campaigned on that issue. I wouldn't say it was my #1 issue, but it was pretty close.
Right up there.
I campaigned on that issue. I've done an amazing job. I have closed borders. He said you couldn't do it. You wouldn't be able to do it. It would never happen. Well, it happened, and it happened very quickly. Wait a minute. When we have criminals, murderers, criminals in this country, we have to get them out, and we're doing it.
By law.
And you'll pick out one man, but even the man that you picked out, he said he wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute
over that. Wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
He had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry. Terry.
He did not
Don't
have the
do that.
letter MS13.
It says MS13.
That was photoshopped. So let me
That was Photoshop. Terry, you can't do that. Hey, they're giving you the big break of a lifetime. You know, you're doing the interview. I picked you because, frankly, I never heard of you, but that's okay. But I picked you, Terry, but you're not being very nice. He had MS-13 tattooed.
We'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture.
And you think it was Photoshop? Well,
here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He had MS-13.
He did have tattoos that can be interpreted that way. I'm not an expert on them. I want to turn to Ukraine, sir.
Terry,
I want to get to Ukraine.
No. He had MS, as clear as you can be, not interpreted. This is why people no longer believe the news, because
when
it's
he was
fake
photographed
news.
in El Salvador, they aren't there. But let's just go on. They aren't there when he's in El Salvador.
They weren't there, but they're there now, right?
No,
but they're there
in
now.
your picture.
Terry.
Ukraine, sir.
He's got MS-13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
We'll take a look at that.
You do such a disservice.
We'll take a look at
Why
that,
don't you
sir.
just say, yes, he does?
Are you using your powers as president to get personal revenge?
No, I'll tell you what. You're really not asking, and you should be asking. There has never been a president in this country, in the history, that was persecuted like I was persecuted by really crooked people, dishonest, horrible people, and it's been proven. So when you say I'm treating people rough, I'm not treating people rough. I was treated worse than any president in the history of our country. Fighting. Don't forget.
You think he wants peace?
You
think Vladimir Putin wants peace?
I think he does, yes. I think he does. I think because
even with the raining missiles
I think he really, his dream was to take over the whole country. I think because of me, he's not going to do that.
Do you trust him? Do you trust him?
I don't trust you. I don't trust a lot of people. I don't trust you. Look at you. You come in all shooting for bear. You're so happy to do the interview.
I am
And
happy.
then you start hitting me with fake questions. You start telling me that a guy whose hand is covered with a tattoo doesn't have the tattoo. You know.
All right.
I mean, you're being dishonest.
No, I'm not.
Let me
No, I
just
am
tell
not,
you,
sir.
I don't trust a lot of people. But I do think this. I think that let's say he respects me. And I believe because of me, he's not going to take over the whole. But his decision, his choice would be to take over all of Ukraine. Okay. It's a war that never should have happened.
You said something a couple weeks ago that struck me. You said concerning the tariffs, which economists say are going to raise prices, you said, quote, hang tough. Yeah. It won't be easy. You said that to the American people. Is that what Americans should expect, some hard times?
I've said that during my campaign. Look, we won a campaign by a lot. We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by a lot. You know, we had a tremendous campaign. I said all these things during my campaign. I said, you're going to have a transition period. We've been ripped off by every country all over the world. They're laughing at us. They thought we were stupid people, and we were. And I said, that's not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen.
Hard times are ahead?
I don't think so. I think great times are ahead. Look, since I came in, gasoline is down, groceries are down, egg prices are down, many things are down, just about everything. You know, you don't have the drop in fuel and energy and oil like we did. I took it from maybe $3.20, maybe more than that, down into a much lower number. When you have that kind of a drop, you're not going to have inflation.
Not now, but it's the tariffs, right? We still have 145% tariffs on China. Your Treasury Secretary said we basically have an embargo on China.
Look, you're trying to say something's going to happen, Terry.
No, okay, well,
nothing's going to happen.
You know business.
Terry,
I want to ask you.
I do know business.
Yes,
and
so 145% tariffs on China, and that is basically an embargo.
They deserve it.
It'll raise prices on everything from electronics to clothing to building houses.
You don't know that. You don't know whether or not China's going to eat it.
That's mathematics.
China probably will eat those tariffs, but at 145, they basically can't do much business with the United States. And they were making from us $1 trillion a year. They were ripping us off like nobody's ever ripped us off. And by the way, we have other countries that were just as bad. If you look at the European Union, it was terrible what they've done to us. Every country, almost every country in the world was ripping us off. But they're not doing that. We have to fix this, otherwise it's just not self-sustaining.
Well, one of the things you ran on was you'd said you'd bring prices down on day one, and that it would happen fast, and that it would happen fast. And most economists will tell you that tariffs will raise prices. So don't your tariffs cut against that promise you made to bring prices down?
No, because I had massive tariffs on China, if you remember, in my first term, and we had essentially no inflation, like around 1% inflation, which is like a perfect number. And then when Biden took over, it went through the roof. It went to probably the worst inflation we've ever had. I mean, we had an inflation nightmare. Now, if you look at what's happening now, we're only there for 100 days, as you say. And in 100 days, we took over. We had bad inflation for 4 years, for 2 years of, especially 2 years of his administration. I would say record-setting like we've never seen. They say 48 years, the worst in 48 years. I say it was much worse than that.
Yeah.
Right. So now if you look at what's happened, energy is down. Gasoline hit $1.98 in a few states during the last couple of days. It was $3.50 and $4 and $4.50. But gasoline is way down. When I took over, you remember the big thing with eggs. They hit me the first week. Eggs, like it was my fault. I said, I didn't cause this problem. This problem was caused by Biden. What's the problem with eggs? And they said, they've doubled. And well, eggs are down 87% since I got involved, ripping us off on trade. It was not sustainable.
So your message to those small businesses who are saying, we can't live a month, 2 months with these tariffs. Apple got a big deal. Is there something for them?
No, not only Apple. We've got $7 to $8 trillion being invested in our country in 2 months. Biden didn't have that over a year. I mean, if you look at Biden, nobody was really investing in this country. Everybody was ripping off our country. Apple's putting up $500 billion, but that's only one of many companies. Companies are flooding into our country right now.
So your answer to the concern about the tariffs is everything's going to be hunky-dory?
Everything's going to be just fine. It wouldn't have been if I didn't do this. I had a choice. I could leave it, have a nice, easy time, but I think ultimately you would have had an implosion. Our country had inflation that was worse than they've ever had it before. You don't mention that. Why don't you mention that? We had the worst inflation probably in the history of our country. People say 48 years. Probably in the history of our country, we had the worst inflation. And people were dying over the inflation. You know that. Now the grocery prices are coming down. The energy prices are coming down. Gasoline's
methods. About your methods, how you're accomplishing
they seem to work.
Do you acknowledge that under our law, every single person who gets deported gets a hearing first to make their case?
Well, are we talking about people that are citizens of our country or not?
No, you aren't deporting citizens at this point.
Well, let me ask you, did they get hearings when Biden allowed 21 million, because I think the number is 20 million people to flow into our country? You had 21 million people that came into our country through a stupid open border, and they were prisoners, and they were people that you don't want, in many cases, in our country, right? They came from all over the world. They came from the Congo. They came from South. They came from all over the world. We're talking about some of the roughest countries in the world they had here, including terrorists, by the way. Now, did we give them a hearing when they came in?
Well, the law requires that every single person who is going to be deported gets a hearing first.
Well,
do you acknowledge that?
I'll have to ask the lawyers about that. All I can say is this. If you're going to have 21 million people, and if we have to get a lot of them out because they're criminals, we're going to have to act fast. We can't. Do you think we can give 21 million trials? Let's say each trial takes 2 weeks. Is that what you want us to do?
The law is the law, sir. The law is the law, and you're sworn to uphold it.
The law doesn't say anything about trials.
No, not trials, hearings. I said
These
hearings.
people came in, they're not citizens. They came in illegally. They came into our country illegally. We have to get them out.
They used about 20 acres and had a fence that had been there since 1910 when their family took over